Hello, BookTube. As part of my 2024 library tour, in this episode, I'm going to be starting a section of my library that I call Classics, Canonical, Modern, and Contemporary Fiction, Poetry, and Drama. I have them out in the hall, which is why you have behind me my bedroom door, and my bookcase is here. So I'm going to try to film these all at one time, which is why you will likely see me in this getup, in my regular clothes, like this outfit. Or at least, and then I'll try to put them up as I can, probably after the science fiction and fantasy, depending how many I get. So anyway, let's get going. So I have my classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, drama, which I will use as the titles of each episode of this part of the library tour, new name ideas for this part of my library, because classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama is a mouthful. Anyway, and I have them alphabetized, so I will get going. So first up is the Oresteia by Aeschylus. This is a bind-up that includes Agamemnon, the libation bearers, and the Eumenides. I've had this for about 20 years now. I read it about 20 years ago and haven't gone back to it yet. This is, of course, the story of Orestes and the death of his father Agamemnon and the trial of Orestes. This is the portable Dante. So this includes, let's see here, the Divine Comedy, La Vita Nuova, the rhymes, or some selected poetry, and prose works. Have not gotten around to it yet. I did try the Inferno over 20 years ago in a dual language translation that I didn't particularly get on with. This is Hans Christian Andersen's Fairy Tales. I had originally planned to give this to one of my nieces, but I never got around to it and just decided to keep it, at least for now. Next is Postcard from the Underworld by Sinan Antoon. This is a slim volume of poetry that is quite good. I really enjoyed it. Returning to the classics, this is The Voyage of the Argo by Apollonius of Rhodes. So this is the story of Jason and the Argonauts, which I think I read about 20 years ago, or at least 15. This is The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. This is the only Atwood I currently have, and it's one of the ones that I have bailed on twice. I'm not entirely sure why I picked it back up, because I would have thought of all of the Atwood would be The Blind Assassin, which is the only work of hers that I actually like. This is SOS Poems 1961 to 2013 by Amiri Baraka. So this is a collected edition of his poetry, which I quite like. Next is The Parasite by Frederick Barnes, which I have not gotten around to reading yet. This is The Sought Read Factor by John Bart. I've had a few goes at it, and it hasn't quite worked out for me, so I think I probably ought to get rid of it at some point. Next is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I bought this when, I think from the little, I think it was the Friends of the Library book section. Haven't gotten around to it yet. This is Topsy Turvy by Charles Bernstein, a collection of poetry that I thought was okay, but it didn't really super impress me. Next is Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, translated by Molly Ringwald. This is a French gay novel set in the 1970s. It's about, in the present, it's about the author, or a version of the author, who had a relationship with a young man in his home village, and then decades later he meets up with that young man's son, who tells him about his father after his father kind of dropped out of the narrator's life. It was okay, particularly the part set in the village, the part when they were younger teenagers. This is Poems by Elizabeth Bishop, which I have struggled with for several readings. This is Final Matters, Selected Poems 2004 to 2010 by Szilard Borbeli, translated by Ottilie Mulsit. This is a selected collection of poetry. It was okay. It didn't super wow me though. This is Seed Celestial by Sarah R. Burnett, collection of poetry. It was okay. The Soft Machine by William S. Burroughs. This is a kind of sort of post-apocalyptic science fiction literary weird novel that I read probably well over 20 years ago. And I don't remember much about it. So I don't even know if I actually even liked it. This is After Callimachus by Stephanie Burt. So this is a reinterpretation of the poems of Callimachus, which I actually quite enjoyed. Sticking with poetry, I also have First Nights by Neil Campbell. This is the first collection of his that I read, and I really enjoyed it. So much so that I also bought another collection, Noctuary, which is put out by Blood Axe. And then the other one's one of the Princeton Poet Series. This is the first, so the next few books are by Peter Campion, Other People, his first collection with the Phoenix Poet Series, which is quite good. My favorite collection of his, though, is The Lions. And I also have El Dorado, and his latest, One Summer Evening at the Falls. Next up is The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon, which I have not gotten around to yet. We return to poetry with Tanto Tanto by Marina Carrera. This is a fantastic poetry collection. I really enjoy it. Next is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, which includes Alice's Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, in a Norton Critical Edition, which I think I picked up for a class in like 2006. So I used to have a big hardcover of it and really enjoyed that version of it. The next three are by Catherine Carter. Her first collection, Memory of Gills, which I quite like. Her second collection that I have is Swamp Monster at Home, which is also quite good. And my favorite collection of hers in her, I think her most recent, is Larvae of the Nearest Stars, all of which are put out by LSU. I also have Cathedral by Raymond Carver. This is a short story collection that I picked up a few years ago for a BookTube event in which participants read work published in the year that they were born. So this is a 1983 short story collection from Raymond Carver, which I don't particularly care for. I don't really get on all that well with literary fiction. Next is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, which I've had two goes at, and either one has really worked out. And I picked this up last year or the year before for 10 Contemporary Classics That I Must Spell Redeem, which was my response to a triptych of videos put out by Katie Books and Steve Donahue. And I think I basically have still built on all, 10 of those I had. Anyway, this is C.P. Caffey Collected Poems, which is really good. I really enjoyed reading these poems. Next is Legends of the World, edited by Richard Cavendish, which I've had forever. It's been a while since I've read it, though. This is Arthurian Romances by Chrétien de Troyes, which I have not gotten around to yet. Next is Texaco by Patrick Chamoiseau, which I have not gotten around. Well, I had to go at it shortly after I bought it, and it did not work out, which is sad because this is one of those books that I've been a bit obsessed with for a long time, because I read a paper on it about 15 years ago. Unfortunately, didn't like it. Another book that I have struggled with is The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. Although, to be honest, I struggle with most of Chabon's work that I've read. Next is Bright Heart by Justin Shin, a collection of poetry that I used to really enjoy, but my recent attempt to reread it after well over a decade did not turn out as I had hoped. Returning to books that I've bought because they were published in the year of my birth is Life and Times of Michael K. by J.M. Coetzee. And this one ended up winning the Booker Prize. Did not get on with it at all. I might give it a Bell Redemption, or I might not. I'm not entirely sure why I still have it, given that I got rid of Shame by Salman Rushdie relatively quickly. This is The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, a classic early work of detective fiction that I enjoyed when I was younger, although recent attempts to reread it for October have not worked out well at all. Returning to poetry, this is Taking to Water by Jennifer Conlon. I didn't particularly get on with this collection, sadly. And this is A Little More Written on the Human by Gillian Conley. This is a selected collection of her work, which is quite good. Even if I do occasionally flip-flop on that when I reread it. The next batch of books are by Dennis Cooper. Closer, which it's been a while since I've read it, but I think I kind of liked it. I mean, it's been about well over 15 years. Frisk, which I read a few years ago for Garbagist and didn't like it at all. I also have a short story collection by him, Wrong, which it's been a very long time since I've read it, and I don't really remember much about it. Maybe I should correct that. And then The Sluts, which it has been quite a while because it was in 2006 when I read it, and I haven't reread it since. The next group of books are by Michael Cunningham. Home at the End of the World, which is his first novel and one that I remember quite fondly. I really enjoyed it when I read it. I had it in a 2-book omnibus with Flesh and Blood. I also have The Hours, which is also one that I remember quite fondly. It's been well over 20 years when I had it, and I am very, very annoyed that I do not have the original trade paperback cover because I hate movie tie-in covers so much. And I end this part with more poetry. Mass for Shut-ins by Mary Alice Daniel. This is a really good collection of poetry. Quite liked it. And I also enjoyed Dear Vulcan by Laura Davenport. So that was part one of the classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama shelves. So we'll see you for part two in the near future. So until then, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.